Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's been an honor having this opportunity to be here and to share some of our experiences in promoting the public communication when we are working on the aquavoltaics development and in conflict with the possible food security issues. And yes, we all know we are facing the climate emergency, so I don't need to repeat that again. And also, after years of the efforts and subject to series of the scientific studies, and the IPCC report does produce very convincible to realize the climate emergency. On the other hand, in the political economy side, we have seen also series of the COP efforts. Then we come up with the Paris Agreement, which is legally enforceable for the participant countries. The pledge to reach this zero emission by 2050. And after the COP28, we are convinced that transitioning away from fossil fuel in energy system in a just, orderly, and equitable manner, accelerating action in this critical decade so as to achieve net zero by 2050 has been now the core for our attention. But after we've been producing or generating so many technologies and invented so many advanced technology, when we start the deployment, we face serious challenge about the public trust. And that's the issues, I think, not just Taiwan face, or other countries and all our friends here, we are facing the similar challenges. How to gain the public trust so we can deploy those, we think, the best technology to combat the climate emergency. And so I try to share with you some of our experiences in this regard. Here, for the aquavoltaic, is, I would say, just an exemplified case for all your references. Yes, when we try to promote the renewable energy, and on the other hand, we need to care about the food security. So in the long run, we believe that with the deployment of renewable energy, which could maintain the pledge goal that we could keep the temperature not over 1.5 centimeter. That could achieve the carbon neutrality and mitigate the extreme weather that might jeopardize the agricultural production. And also, for the long-term purpose, it could also reduce the threat to food supply stability. And certainly, that could ensure sufficient and safe food access globally as well. That's the long-term benefit. But how about the immediate challenges that we face? For instance, when we try to promote those aquavoltaic, we have seen the challenge derived out of the development of renewable energy will require intensive land use. And also, that would compete directly with food crop cultivation. And also, certainly, that may limit food production and impact food security. So, this is kind of the dilemma. And let's turn to the SDG. We understand that according to the SDG, the number 2, the principle number 2, it directly relates to the energy and the high land relevancy. And it said that we need to manage the balance between energy production and the land use to ensure both are sustainable. Yes, we all understand that. And also, on the other hand, it also mentioned that we need to ensure energy development sustain agricultural integrity, because that will not only increase biomass for food, feed, and renewable energy, and it will also act as a safeguard to promote sustainable agriculture and improve the integration of renewables into agriculture. Yes, even though that I try to talk about the fisheries issues here, but indeed, the agriculture issues would loom large behind this. Right now, in Taiwan, the Ministry of Agriculture already opposed to the deployment of those PV panel in the agricultural land. So the fishery, in the fishery sectors, it becomes an exemplified case. If we are not able to convince the public that is beneficial and also could reach the harmonization with the fishery integrity and the food security, it almost becomes not possible that we could further promote any kind of the PV development on the the agricultural related land. And I'm going to explain that further. Okay, so we need to reach a balance between food security and the energy development policy. That's for sure, we all understand that. And we understand in the short term, we need to avoid inappropriate intervention in land use that could negatively impact agricultural production. We understand that. Otherwise, we are not able to pursue the long-term benefit out of this policy paradigm. And next, as an example for discussion, I try to introduce what we have done, what have happened, and what we do, and what we expect for this public communication solution that we could promote the fishery sector's aquavoltaic development. And let's turn back to the energy situation of Taiwan. Taiwan is an island country, and we have only limited resources of energy. So you can see that I try to make a comparison between 2018 and 2022. So you can tell from the blue, green, and the light green, those are all fossil fuel, accounted for more than 90% of Taiwan's primary energy supply. And even after we try very hard to promote the renewable energy, which you can see on the top right corner, in the 2022, still over 90% of the fossil fuel dependency. And what's even worse, we need to import 90%, 98%, or 97% out of those fossil fuel primary energies overseas. So you can see how difficult an independent electricity grid without self-dependent energy resources and trying to reach the 2050 net zero goal. Yeah, it's difficult, but we are working on that. Even though it's tough, we are working on that. And you can tell from here, by 2025, we have a national policy set up to install 20 gigawatt of solar PV. And also, we would like to reach like 20% of the renewable energy accounted for the power generation by the year 2025. So it's an ambitious goal. And among those efforts, you can see on the bottom, for the solar PV, 3 gigawatt will be out of the rooftop installation, and the 17 gigawatts will be out of the ground-mounted systems. And that's been the original policy goal set up by Taiwan. And after that, we try very hard. We need to find more land for those solar PV deployment. So we face the challenge like we have only limited land area available. And also we turn the situation into land fragmentation. So that caused the problem. And on the other hand, when we would like to seek for those solar PV goal, and you will see that if we will have like 17 gigawatt ground-mounted PV, among that, most of those will be expected to be generated out of the aquavoltaics development. So here, that's the problem about the land. Taiwan will require 25,000 hectares for ground-mounted solar. And among that, 19.9 thousand hectares will be allocated for aquavoltaics. So you can see, with a situation like that, we need to count on this, the fishery industry and the fishery sectors. So that will be just conflict with those fishermen's benefit and also the land conservations as well, directly. And then On the other hand, you probably know that Taiwan has been one of the very aggressive fishery country in the world. And also that's been like ranked by the eighth as the fishery products exporter in Asia and 22nd in the world. And also it's accounted for like 0.18% of our GDP, and also 28% will be the total agricultural industry accounted for our GDP. So both the fishery and the agricultures, and those two sectors will be all included in Taiwan's agricultural development, okay? And we still have significant impact on our GDP if we try to develop those solar panel on the top of the fishery pond or the agricultural land. So that's the situation we face. And what would be the true issue about that under this policy? So on the left-hand side, those are the direct impact on our fishery industry. Reduced production, rising fish prices, and the monoculture of crops. Well, that's something to do with biological issues. And when we try to pursue the net zero purpose, that will lead to the well-planned energy policy prioritize stakeholders' interests. So that's the basic principle. When we care so much about the net zero, keep saying the net zero, then the policy will be placed on the top. And that folks often push impact fishermen to public protest for their rights, and also will also invite several like agent or lobbyists to also participate in the thing. And that would even more interfere with the rational decision or deployment of the solar PV technology. And because of that, just in the early this year, we sort of turned down a little bit our goal from 20% to 15.5%. And among this, the ground-mounted solar target has been down from 70 gigawatt to 12 gigawatt. So you can tell that's all because of the aquavoltaics decrease. And because of that, we need to find a solution for this. And we try to integrate the stakeholders' perspective in our policy planning. And we believe that we need to consider various potential impacts at different stage and to include all related stakeholders in the policy decision and avoid post-implementation debates that would jeopardize the public trust. That's what we would like to do. And so when we are working on that, we need to figure out what would be the main barrier. Well, that would be the so-called weak problem. That means the issue has been complex and poorly structured nature with interconnected causes and impacts, and usually lacking clear solution. Well, we believe that's what we face in this case. And so that's a very popular methodology to apply here. We call that the analytic hierarchy process. And why it's meaningful? Because we can set up the objective to overcome traditional stakeholder communication challenges by using the multiple criteria decision-making analysis. And also, it's just idea for the complex decision scenario like this. And certainly, there will be some key features that we can pursue. First of all, it provides us with a structured technology. And so we can break down complex problems into manageable parts. And also, that could be good for the decision making. And also, it provides us a hierarchy structures for the development to include different levels of the goal, criteria, and alternatives. Certainly, you come up with the possible evaluation. So we would benefit out of that. We can accommodate conflicting and multi-dimensional objectives, and also handle immeasurable and incomparable impacts effectively. And in short, that would be 5 components for the application of this AHP that we can integrate and balance interest, and then we can boost the credibility, and we can ensure consideration of security, and we can improve policy scientific basis. Certainly, we facilitate communication. And that's been a proposed structure that we are using right now in Taiwan. So you can see that we try to break down the factors to be considered into the social, economic, environmental, development, and recently we would like to add one more that would be the ecological and the biological. And so that's the way we try to promote our communication. And when we are doing that, we really figure out how can we handle that. For instance, we can categorize and analyzing different stakeholders group. For instance, for the PV sectors, they care more about economic investment benefit. And for the agricultural sectors, they care more about the product marketing. So you can tell from this. And also, we can predict whatever been prioritized, and so leave some room for the decision maker, not always just follow the national renewable energy policy as the priority. And because of that, we are able to identify the key factors that need attention. And we can measure and assess weights from different dimensions and perspectives. And we can understand the concern and the priority of different stakeholders regarding the risk factors. And for instance, here you can tell that for the fishery industries, they care more about aquatic product marketing and the food security. But in the overall observation, that has been only ranked by the 5th. So if a decision maker just follow the traditional policy-making process, they will probably ignore or drive down the fisherman's concern. In turns, that will promote a lot of the post-implementation debate. So I think we can try to avoid that. And also here, after we conduct the whole survey, we figure out that the AHP application will be welcome because those 2 things, stakeholder communication and institutional framework, has been welcome, ranked by the 2nd and the 3rd. And finally, this application has been also applied in our geothermal development, backed up by the blockchain, and also supported by the AI implication, so that we are able to accumulate sensitive information and ready for the future or the further environmental impact assessment. So whenever there will be the new technology to be developed or deployed, I believe that this kind of the framework backed up by the advanced technology could be very useful and effectively conducted. So as a conclusion, we try to integrate humanistic issues into our aquavoltaic policy and leverage technology to harmonize these elements. This approach promotes sustainability and serves as a model for future renewable energy policy. And by balancing diverse perspectives and considering all factors comprehensively, we not only enhance policy effectiveness, but also ensure governmental transparency and public engagement, and also propelling us toward a sustainable and resilient future. Well, that's my presentation. Thank you for your attention.